Good morning, one and all. I've got my buddy next to me now because we have got some transfer rumours to discuss. We're not doubling up. I'm talking about strikers today. No. We have got some goalkeeper talk and we've got some double midfielder talk. I think the first thing to discuss is an area that is of some concern, particularly given maybe his performance in the last game between the sticks. Some goalkeeper news, Geo.
Yeah, reports this morning. Areola, if West Ham do sign him for the 11 million that apparently we've agreed with PSG are going to subsidise his wages for him. Now, what that percentage is or that amount is unclear at the minute, but it's still big news, I think, actually. And I think it's possibly a deal breaker, actually. If that was the case, I think that might actually be what just pushes the deal over the line and perhaps convinces Moyes and West Ham that go get this deal done. And as we know with the Thomas Souček contract thing, that Moyes has been giving a lot of control over stuff at West Ham, including contract negotiations now, you'd imagine that this might be enough to entice Moyes to say to the board, right, there you go, David Moyes seal of approval, let's get this done now.
Well, wages are, for that reason, are clearly a sticking point at the moment. And it's always easy when you're trying to assess who a manager wants to bring in to know that he's got a transfer budget. The manager has £50 million, for instance. What's he going to do? Spend 50 million on one player, buy two players for 25 million. One thing we don't often discuss is that he's clearly given a budget, and I'm sure they all are, on wages, whatever it might be, 70% of turnover, 80% turnover, whatever it is. And we already know that David Moyes is probably penny pinching a little bit with the Thomas Souček one. It is a sticking point, and it's why I thought, forget their abilities for a second, it's why I thought Sam Johnstone was more attractive to the club and to David Moyes than Areola, because there was no transfer fee, and he would never command anything like 100 grand a week. So just the overall package was less. But I guess with Areola, with PSG, they've got to subsidise it. I mean, the understanding is that they're going to try and offer Mbappe eye-watering, like we've never seen before in football, wages to try and keep him at the club. There's talk of him getting £100 million signing on fee, and then I don't know what but more than Messi got at Barcelona, which is apparently 500 grand a week. They may well be looking at £1 million a week, right? £1 million a week. So obviously they need to trim their wages somewhere. How are they going to get
that 80 grand a week for Areola will make a big difference, won't it?
It will. It absolutely will. How are they going to get that past UEFA financial fair play when they've already had their bottom smacks? I don't know. Would you do it? Do you like him? You'd like to make this keeper a permanent
100%. I think there's a lot of transfers needing done at West Ham this summer. It feels like a rebuild job, and I think the more players you can keep from this team into next season, the better. Really, for the right reasons, of course. I'm not suggesting we keep a player on like Yarmolenko on just for the sake of consistency. But Areola is one of those players that more than justifies his place in the squad. I think he should be the number one next season. I wonder if maybe that's part of the reason Moyes hasn't wanted to make him number one this season due to the uncertainty of whether he's going to be here next year or not. I would understand if Moyes has hesitations over making your keeper number one and taking your number one out and putting him on the bench. Then the following season, you're saying to the guy that you've just put on the bench for a whole year, say, oh, you're number one again. I think Fabianski would be quite right. Go, well, no, you're right, Gav. My contract's up there in the season. I'm off somewhere else. I'm way to, Championship club on a 2-year deal rather than sticking around at West Ham on a 1-year deal with the threat of you bringing in another keeper ahead of me. So I wonder if that's why Areola's not been made number one, the undisputed number one, if you like. Of course, Fabianski's a good keeper, but we've seen a few errors from him this season. I don't think his performances have been as good as they were when he originally joined. It's a fantastic service. Still got a squad role to play next season, Fabianski. But I think there's a vacancy for the gloves next year. And I think Areola, why would you not get him? He's not let us down this season. I think he's had a brilliant season with us. He's done the hard bit now, which is get him integrated into the team. Get him used to London. He was at Fulham before. But everything's set up for this. And it's such a no-brainer of a signing as far as I'm concerned, assuming we can get the wages sorted. And if this news is correct, that's the wages sorted. So it ticks all the boxes for me. I think the fee, 11 million, I think that's reasonable as well. You're getting a keeper for 6-7 years if he stays here that long. I don't see any problems with this at all, not one.
No, look, I agree. By the way, this would be my choice of keeper. You never know when you bring a player in, are they going to settle? We know he's a good keeper. That much is true. For me, the only sticking point was the wages. If that's going to be alleviated as a concern, then we do it. We know he's going to settle. He doesn't even have to move house. I mean, it's absolute, as you say, no brainer. Now, before myself and Geo go on to talk about the two midfielders we've been linked with, I don't know why I'm being mysterious because I'll stick it in the thumbnail. However, this video is, of course, sponsored by the OneFootball app, which you can download by clicking the link below and by the QR code, which will be either next to my head or Geo's head at this exact point. It's not here now because I haven't edited the video, but it's going to be somewhere. Now, the OneFootball app is packed full of transfer gossip. So if you want to read a little bit more about any players that are linked to West Ham, download it. And you know what it'll do? It'll cut through all the nonsense of all the other transfer rumours and only give you the West Ham stuff, because when you download the app, you tell it, oi, I'm a West Ham fan. Best of all, the app is free. Now, Geo, I've got one word for you. Brownhill.
Oh, for God's sake, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, we've been linked to Josh Brownhill of Burnley. And when I say linked, I mean strongly linked. We've been linked to another guy we'll get onto in a second. But even when we got linked to him, it was a bit like, but Brownhill is more likely at this point of time. So the rumours are trying to make it sound like this is our sort of number one centre midfielder choice. And I can't help but think it all verges on Burnley getting relegated or not. I'd be surprised if we still pursued him if they remained in the Premier League, because obviously his fee remains relatively high. But should they get relegated, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Moyes is knocking on the door trying to get a bit of a bargain.
It's his sort of player, isn't it, Gio?
Yeah, I think so. I think a bit like Areola, I think he ticks a lot of the boxes as well, and it's almost like Burnley's Mark Noble to some extent. He's quite similar to Mark Noble, but not identical to Mark Noble. But he's got everything that Moyes likes in a player. He works hard, his passing's decent, he's strong in the tackle, will run around for 90 minutes, positionally well disciplined. He's been playing in a 2 in Burnley as well. I think if you go get a centre midfielder from Burnley, one thing you know is they can hold their own in midfield because they don't have that extra body. They're often overrun and outnumbered in midfield. So it's a tough job being one of the 2 centre midfielders for Burnley. You've got to have work rate, you've got to have stamina, otherwise you just won't cope. You will not manage. But he's been their best centre midfielder for a couple of seasons now since he joined Burnley. Very, very good player. I will be honest with you, I don't think he's an elite centre midfielder. I wouldn't. If you said to me, we've signed Brownhill next season, if everyone's in form, who's your midfielders? It would still be Rice and Souček. Brownhill wouldn't get in there. But I think we need a couple of players like that. I understand why everybody wants vast improvements and players that come in undisputed into your starting 11. That's important in some positions. Assuming Rice remains, I don't think centre midfielder is one of them. I think we almost need a player that can actually play half the season, and he gets in when he's in form. When he's out of form, he goes out and he's sort of okay with not being in the starting 11. I think it's arguably dangerous to have too many players that command a starting 11 place week in, week out, because we can only have 11 of them. Otherwise, you've got some upset players. So I think Brownhill would be a very good addition, not just a player, but also his stature as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be an uninspiring signing, but it's a steady Eddie, and Moyes does like a steady Eddie, and I would be more worried about it if we weren't linked with some of the other players. One we'll get onto in just a second. I also think someone like Brownhill, he'd look to the bench and he'd think, actually, I want to get that guy on. He'd be a safe pair of hands. And that's one thing we really do miss at West Ham at the moment, are actually players that David Moyes wants to use off the bench, because sometimes we're just so knackered at the end of games because you just got a flat refusal to use people. You just get the impression that if it was Souček, and Souček was looking a little bit leggy after 70 minutes, he might look on that bench. Actually, I'll do that now. Why? Because I trust him. That being said, it's not all Aldi and Lidl purchases, bit insulting, really. He does have some champagne taste, and we can see this when he's looking at Rafinha, who's obviously a very, very good player. I think certainly some of the players we've been linked with, and some of the players he's openly gone for recently, have suggested that, unlike Brownhill, he's looking at that next level up, wants to get 1 or 2 players. The next one we're going to discuss is obviously Youri Tielemans. And he falls into that category because he's not a steady Eddie. He's somebody that does actually really excel at something. He's a prodigiously gifted technical footballer. And the thing I like about this, and by the way, I'm not sure we can get him, but by some miracle, particularly if we qualify for Europe, and who'd have foretold this, we've become more and more attractive club. If we get Europe again this season, we've become more attractive from Leicester. This is really quite a metamorphosis and turnaround. In fact, we've actually become Leicester. Who'd have thunk it? What I really liked is in the most recent game that we just had, David Moyes dropped Thomas Souček. And now I know some people will say it's just Norwich, but he put Lanzini in there. And I thought we were so much better for having a technical player in there. Now, if as we sort of hope we keep Declan Rice for next season, we don't really know what's going to happen with Thomas Souček. I really like that blend. If we could somehow get this player, and you'll have to tell us about his contractual situation, Geo, this would be more of the same, what we saw with Lanzini and Declan Rice there, but probably an improvement on it, mate.
Yeah, I think he'd be one of the best players we could probably sign, to be honest with you. I think there's a ceiling to the players that we can get. Obviously, the world-class ones, we can't get them. We're not shopping in there yet. Would we get you to Tielemans? I'm not convinced we could. I think he's probably got bigger ambitions, hence why he's leaving Leicester, hence why he's letting his contract run down. Got 12 months to go, forces Leicester into selling him for quite a low fee as well, tipped at around 40 million this summer, which is quite cheap for him. I think he's far better than a 40 million pound player. I don't think within England, of course, I think if you went around Europe, you'd probably get similar midfielders for less money than that. But players that you know can do it in the Premier League, that are doing it in the Premier League, you wouldn't get someone. He'd probably cost, John McGinn would probably cost greater than 40 million. I think Tielemans a better centre midfielder, for example. So if he was interested in West Ham, I think I would label this one up as what I did with Areola, which is a no-brainer. It would be a large chunk of the money. But I guess the question is then, do we need Tielemans, Souček and Declan Rice? Can we afford that much a talent in the team? I think we could, actually. I think that would take West Ham up a level in terms of that area of the position. I don't believe the rumour, though. I just think I think Tielemans is looking at a Champions League club. He's strongly linked to Arsenal at the minute as well. I think a move like that's probably a bit more likely. But would I love Tielemans at West Ham? Absolutely. I really would. But the funny thing is, this is why Brownhill could be a good signing. What would his fee be? I don't know, 15, 20 million. It's quite cheap for a centre midfielder in the Premier League. And what it does is it frees up a bit of the transfer kitty to use elsewhere, whether it be the striker or the winger or something that allows Moyes to be a bit more flexible. If you were to sign someone like Tielemans, though, it's a large chunk of your budget gone, isn't it? I think it restricts you elsewhere a little bit. So big £20 million swing in the two players, though. But there's a big swing in the ability, I guess.
If you sell Souček to Tottenham for 40 million, it's not. Anyway, just you think, actually, just before we finish, you watched Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul?
I've watched Breaking Bad, not Better Call Saul yet.
Okay, so it's very good. I mean, I thought, how could it be as good as Breaking Bad? Have I?
Yeah, you tell me a lot, so we'll go watch it.
Okay. So there's, like in Breaking Bad, do you know, like the bad guy who runs Los Polos Chicken, but actually he's not really selling chicken?
Yes.
I think he looks like Youri Tielemans.
I have to Google him now.
I can't think. I can't think of the actor's name. I don't know his name either. He was also in what's it called? The Boys. He was also in The Boys, and I think he was also in Mandalorian as well. Yeah, but I think him and Youri Tielemans may well be the same person. Anyway,
I've got. Hang on, before we disappear, I've got something funny. Did you see the food challenge with the 3 Czech boys? There's a clip in it. There's a clip in it. So anyway, they've got something. So Kraus here and Souček's there. So Kraus showing his and Souček's, and Kraus is a lot. Souček's is really well done. The chef's got it bang on, and Kraus has got like a little bit like defect. I'm sure it still tastes fine, but in terms of presentation, it's not as good as Souček's. And Kraus says, "Oh, sign a player, loan a player." This is obviously what I get. I mean, the banter is just top notch. I only got this because I'm on loan. Absolutely love that. But
at least he can laugh.
It's a reflection of his attitude, but I guess it's also a reflection of how pissed off he possibly is that he's not getting much game time. He's taking out the chef, going, "Oh, you mate, it's just what I get because I'm on loan." I just thought it was funny. It's on West Ham's YouTube channel.
Well, have a look. They do say there's never a truer word than one said in jest. So yeah, he's sort of laughing through gritted teeth, thinking, "You swine, Moyes, you swine."
Me.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to Geo for helping me out with today's video. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.